everybody, this is Ro. Welcome back to my channel. So I have a really special guest on my channel today that I did an interview with that I'll put in after this little intro. But this is a woman named Jenna who is a law student and she works for a prosecutor's office. She's a law clerk, and she commented on my channel and she told me that basically watching my videos and some other prison YouTubers channels, their videos, she was able to learn so much, and it kind of molded how she wants to move forward with her career, which is amazing. So I reached out to her immediately and I said, girl, I would love to get you on my channel and interview you about that. So we finally, after a little bit of trying to coordinate our schedules, she's back in school, poor thing, me with work, we finally were able to film this video, and I am so excited to share it with you. So I'll put it in right here. Make sure you comment below and let Jenna know what you think of her video, any questions you have for her, and how much you appreciate her big compassionate heart as she moves through working with the prosecutor's office and being a law clerk and working with some clients with some very serious crimes, but still has her heart opened to all of us and people in our shoes.
I have an amazing guest here today. Her name is Jenna. Jenna found my channel. Well, first of all, Jenna's a law student, and she found my channel, and she's been watching it, and she commented on one of my videos and said that through watching my content, it kind of is reshaping her view and how she feels like she'll go into being a lawyer. And you're a law clerk as well, right, for a prosecutor?
Yes, I work for a prosecutor's office. Yes.
Yeah. So why don't you? That's amazing, and I love that, and that's why I reached out and I was like, "Please, do you want to do a video?" Because I think that is so incredible, and it just makes my day to be able to help shape you and be able to help shape your mind and share my experiences and other people's experiences, so you know what we go through on the inside. Do you want to give us a little bit of your background and tell that story maybe in your own words?
Yeah, I would love to. So I actually found your channel through Jessica Kent. So I watch a couple of the prison YouTubers. I watch Jessica and Christina Randall, and then I found your channel, and I am also the president of the Federal Bar Association at our school chapter. So I'm also interested in law on the federal level. So the fact that, Adam's in federal prison was really interesting to me. So I understood a lot of, what you were talking about. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So I've done several different type of internships during law school. I've worked with the Innocence Project, and now I'm at a prosecutor's office. So I've kind of done defense work and prosecution. And I love both of them. I don't think I want to be a defense attorney, but I always say, there's good defense attorneys, there's bad defense attorneys, there's good prosecutors, and there's bad prosecutors. I'd like to be a good prosecutor, because I have perspective from both sides, that I would hope I wouldn't be, biased or, some of the crazy things you hear prosecutors do to get a conviction. So.
Oh, I love that. And I'm so grateful to Jess and to Christina both for sharing their stories and what they've been through and exposing all of that. That's amazing. So as somebody in law school, what made you turn to YouTube? What made you get that interest to go there and then start following people with prison stories?
I think Jessica's story was suggested to me on my recommended things. I watch YouTube more than I watch cable TV. I've watched YouTube for a long time, and I watch a lot of different, types of YouTubers, makeup, family vlogs. And then one day, I think it was her prison pregnancy story that was recommended to me. So that was, of course, the first one I watched, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm hooked now. And then, once you watch one prison YouTuber, it kind of recommends all of them to you. So that's kind of how I got started into the YouTube area of it.
I love that. And I was just telling my sister that last night, the exact same thing. I don't watch TV anymore. I watch YouTube like it's TV. And she goes, oh, me too. She's like, and the weird thing is, I'll put on YouTube videos and I'll leave the phone outside of the shower, she said, so she could actually listen. So I think it's for the world. I love that. And you're right. Once you get stuck on one, it's like a rabbit hole, and it's amazing because you feel like these people are your friends. And I just love that it kind of just came into your world. So talk to me a little bit more about how you said that it's kind of reshaping how your job now is with what you're doing with prosecutors, but also potentially your future as a lawyer.
So as a prosecutor, it's very, you get a case, you get, you go to arraignment and stuff. So it's very like one-sided, you only see the defendant for 10, 20 minutes in court. You sometimes see their family if they're able to come in the gallery, but we don't have any interaction with them. We're legally not allowed to talk to them. So it's not really, sometimes it's dehumanizing. This is just a defendant. This is just a case. It's not a person we're actually prosecuting and like putting in prison. Like sometimes that can be a disconnect. So by watching like your YouTube channel and seeing the more family aspect of it and the family side of the defendants, it, helps you realize as a prosecutor, like when I'm putting this guy, yes, maybe he did what he, was charged with, but it still gives a more human aspect to it. Like I'm putting this guy away in prison for 20 years or whatever it is, it makes it more real and more personable than just, slinging cases through the justice system.
I love that. And one of the prison YouTubers, and I do not remember who, I don't remember if it was one of the women or one of the men, but they said they believed that everybody should do a little bit of time in prison. And I think that maybe part of law school is every potential lawyer should watch these channels and get a feel for this stuff, because you're right. It's just, and it makes sense if there's a disconnect between the numbers and the convictions, and then these are people and the human side of it. And Adam was talking to a prosecutor outside of, or I think it was a prosecutor in Philadelphia who came in. I think he was like a head U.S. attorney, something like that. You know the law. So I say all these things wrong, but he came in and they were chit-chatting after an event that they did there. And the guy asked him, he said, well, how long do you have in? And Adam said, I think at that point it was 18 and a half years on his 213-year sentence. And the guy looks at him and he goes, like in other words, you could keep going. Like, that's not enough. Come back to me when you have 30, 50. I mean, and it just shows, like, if you think about it, and Adam says this all the time, think about what life was like 20 years ago. Think about how much you missed in 20 years. Mm-hmm. You have a brand new baby 20 years later. That baby's an adult going out into the workforce practically. So I think I love that. I love that so much that you were able to get that early and see that human side of it. That's amazing. Are there any stories that stick out to you that just blew your mind and shocked you in watching this kind of stuff?
Well, so I guess I kind of left something out of my story. When I was a kid, my uncle has actually been to prison. Okay. He's since passed away, and I had never gone to visit him as a child or anything. So I think I was around like first grade to fifth grade. He had been in and out of prison for a couple like year-long stints and things like that. So I kind of had like already an aspect of like a family member has been to prison, but it wasn't like he wasn't my super close uncle. It was just kind of like it affected my mom because it was her brother. So I kind of, had it, I had a like sense of what it was to be a family member affected by going to prison. At the prosecutor's office, that you can tell people who have been prosecutors for a long time, over 10 years, almost 15 years, that they can become desensitized, to a lot of the crimes and a lot of the, just the ins and outs of it. I actually work in the state I work in. They have two systems. They have one prosecutor's system that does like misdemeanors and like traffic offenses, and then they have a system that does felonies only. So, and I work in the felonies office. So, we're dealing with rapes, murders, thefts over a certain amount, things like that. So it's always, my first day there, we had a child sex abuse case. So it's always like, very emotionally charged things. We always have victims we're dealing with and things like that. I haven't had anything yet where I think that most of the attorneys in my office truly are very, they're unbiased. They really try to get a good, clean conviction and really try and work with the law enforcement in our area and tell them, like, this is the law. This is how you have to, arrest these people. Like, you can't, break their Fourth Amendment rights and all these things, and so that our convictions are clean and we aren't, making up evidence and, all sorts of crazy things you hear. And so I've also done the Innocence Project, and that was really eye-opening. I actually got to visit several prisons to visit my Innocence Project clients. So they were state prisons, so they were a little bit lower level security, so they weren't as scary, and they were legal visits, so they treat you a little bit differently, I hear, than like if you're going on just like a Saturday family visit or whatever. So
girl, you are speaking to my heart so much, because I, being in my position, right, and I always expose corruption and all of that stuff, but I like to remain real and honest, and I don't judge anybody. And I know there are a lot of innocent people in jail, but there are also a lot of very guilty people in jail. And the things that you saw come through your office, and the fact that you can remain compassionate still to so many people out there, is just, it touches my heart so much, because thank God I'm not the arresting officer or the prosecutor on some of those cases. Like I said, I don't judge, but some things are heinous. So that is beautiful, and it's so amazing. And I can't thank you enough for your big, huge heart, and for being able to still have compassion after dealing with some certain people. And here's a question that came up while you were talking. Last week, I had to call the Federal Public Defender's Office, and I had to also call the county clerk's office where my husband's case is out of. And when they answered the phone, I was trying to speak as professional and as kindly and as politely as I possibly could. And they answered the phone with a chip on their shoulders. And everybody I was transferred to, it was the same across the board, regardless of, I even said to the woman, because she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I said to her, I said, listen, I don't have a background in law. I said, I'm doing my best, and I promise you, I'm going to explain it again in the best way that I possibly can. Just bear with me, work with me here. And I'm being like more aggressive right now in my tone than I even was with her. So I've heard that from so many people across the board, that people answer the phone from those offices with chips on their shoulder. And can you speak to that from your perspective? Because I'd love to hear what's going on in their minds, if it's what we were just talking about with the last thing, or I don't know, just give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would say with like clerk's offices and things like that, I actually just watched your live, and I was like, she called the public defenders, and I was like, I could have helped her out with that and told her who she needed to call. But yeah, so even like the public defender, she may have just been a rude person, I don't know, because usually if you're like a defendant, and calling, or a defendant's family and calling, they're pretty understanding. But like the clerk's office, they are almost very aligned with the prosecution, not saying like decisions, from the judge or biased usually, but like the clerk's office, like I personally, when I go to my county clerk to file stuff for my job, I'm scanned into the back, I'm allowed to go in and just give it to who I need to do. But where if you're a defense counsel, you just stand at in the line, with the glass partition and things like that. So sometimes I think when like defendants or defendants' families would call in, they might get a little like defensive, or like, put up walls. Like, I don't really want to talk to you. I don't really want to say anything because I don't really know. Like, I don't want to imply anything. Like you had said on your live, she didn't want to she thought maybe you're trying to trick her. Like she didn't want to say anything and like be held accountable to that. So it's just a little bit maybe political, which is, that's how everything is anymore. Right. And some tips maybe for talking to the clerk's office. Was it the county clerk you called, or was it like the federal clerk? Do you know?
He said the court clerk, and then I just Googled that. So I'm assuming, the federal clerk, I'm not sure. This is how great I am with law.
It would probably have to be the federal clerk, since he's a federal, like his case was totally federal, right? He wasn't, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and even then, like a county clerk in like a state is probably going to be more friendly than a federal clerk, because like, I don't know, the feds is just, you know how it is. It's just like, there's like a stigma behind it. I don't know. But
yeah, and I just kind of also wanted to touch on, a lot of times from the outside, people are calling with chips on our shoulders. So there's probably getting a lot of people who are rude, and because everybody's the police to them. So that's why I tried to be as polite, and like, I'm trying to be on your team here. So I was just curious if it's maybe that mentality in there, like us versus them, and they're going to call with a chip on their shoulder, so I want to beat it. But I also understand what you're saying about how they don't want to put themselves in a position legally where they say the wrong thing, and then they're being set up. I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah, and I would agree with even at our office, we get calls from defendants. And our secretary who answers, and they're always like, oh, I'm a defendant. And she's like, well, we can't talk to you. And she doesn't mean to be rude or like annoyed, but like when you get 6 calls in a day from like a defendant and you can't talk to them, like, and they don't understand, like, I can't talk to you. Like, it's a little bit challenging, but not everyone who calls is going to be like that. But sometimes you do build up like a defense or an annoyance to like, oh, anybody who calls in that position is going to drive me nuts. But that's not always the case.
Sure. Yeah, I get it. I get both sides. And sometimes people are just having a bad day. How many bad days have I had at work? My gosh. So you said that you didn't think that you wanted to go into defense. What do you think you want to do? What do you see your future hold?
I don't know. I have lots of grand ideas, but I don't know if I'll actually end up doing all of them or any of them. So I've actually considered wanting to go back to school after I get my law degree and get a doctor is a law degree, to get a PhD in criminology or like criminal justice or something like that. Because I'm interested in potentially working in the Federal Bureau of Prisons or something like that, or even state prisons. I don't know if I want to do, state or federal, because like all of those federal agencies need attorneys. And so I would like to work in prisons maybe. I've also considered joining the FBI, but I don't know if I want to do that for sure. It probably involves a lot of traveling and stuff. And I do have a family, so, I don't want to move around a ton. I've also considered being a prosecutor, whether that's a state prosecutor or a federal prosecutor. It just depends on if there's job openings in my area and stuff like that. I don't think I want to be a public defender. I'm like 100% sure almost, because it's a really hard job. Like, it's a really hard job. Like, as a prosecutor, our caseloads are a lot more, controlled. We are, we don't have much interaction outside of our office. We're just in court, and then, we don't have a lot of interaction because we don't have clients. We have the occasional victim, and our victim's advocate will interact with her. But, public defenders will come to court all the time, and if their clients have bailed out, their clients may not show up, and you kind of look like an idiot, but it's not your fault. I mean, you're just a public defender. And then, there's just certain things that I've seen in court from the public defender side that I personally don't want to deal with. And I honestly think that I could effectuate more change being on the prosecution side, because I have such an interesting perspective. I've seen both sides, that if I'm working in the prosecution or working for the Federal Bureau of Prisons, I can maybe do more change than, working from the outside. If I work from the inside out, maybe I can do a little bit more than the other way. So.
Oh, I love that. And that made my heart so happy when you said that, because my experience is with the BOP, the Bureau of Prisons, federal, for anybody that's watching this and doesn't know. And we need more people like you. We need more people with those compassionate hearts who do want to hold up the law, but also want to make sure that there's a human aspect of this and the rehabilitation and all of that stuff. And I love it. And I know no matter what you do, just from speaking to you, you are brilliant, you are beautiful, you have this big heart, and you are going to be successful no matter what it is you choose to do. And I wanted to thank you so much again for being here, for sharing your time with me so I can put this video out there for everyone to watch. And is there anything else that I forgot to ask you, or anything you want to leave everybody watching this with?
I also want to share I'm the president of the Criminal Law Association at my school as well. So we are doing this cool thing this year where we're hosting a woman who was wrongfully convicted and has served 17 years in prison. She was actually wrongfully convicted of the arson murder of her son. So, it's not just some like random murder. It was a very personal thing to her. And it actually ended up not being a murder at all. It was just an accident. And the arsonist expert made up evidence. So we're hosting that event to hopefully open more eyes at school. She's going to come speak and hopefully open more eyes, to all of the law students there, so they get more of a human aspect of the criminal field and things like that. We're also hoping to take, students who are interested on jail tours, county jail tours, so they can see what it's like in there, because I went on my first jail tour, which to me, jail is very different from prison. Like when you're in prison, you start to live there, but jail is very like temporary, unless you're like serving your sentence there, but it's very temporary. And so it kind of is almost worse, I think. I don't know. I think Jessica Kent, some of her stories say that too. Like, jail is worse. So I'm hoping, they can see jail and see if they're going to be public defenders, what their clients are living in, if they're going to be prosecutors, where these people are sitting awaiting trial. And so those are just some things I'm helping fellow law students with to learn more about, compassion and being a compassionate prosecutor and being a zealous advocate as a public defender. So
that's amazing. And if there is anything I can do, or any of my members, subscribers, anything to help you with that, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I would be more than willing and happy to help. Is that event open to the public? Do you want me to share that, or?
Well, I'm not sure yet. I might try and make it live, like on Facebook or something, and then maybe we could share it. Right now, I'm in the process of planning that. We recently got a new law school dean, and she's really excited. So she's helping sponsor the event, and it will be open to like all of our university, not just our law school, but all of our university. And I'm going to try and like do a Facebook Live or something, or a YouTube Live, and share that. So when I know more details and when I know the date for sure, I will share that with you. And then, you can share it with your members. That'd be cool.
Very cool. Yeah, of course. I would be happy to. And I'm in my head, I'm like, please tell me about the jail tour, because the first time I was ever at a jail tour, I remember looking down. So there was glass, and we were looking down at the pod, and the guys were looking, it was a group of us, and there were guys who were looking up, and it was like this weird feeling of, oh my God, it was like, this is cool. I get to see kind of what Adam lives in every day, but it was a county jail too, and it's very, very different. And then in a split second, I felt disgusting. I was like, I feel like I'm watching animals at the zoo, like in their unnatural habitat. And it was just, I got this horrible feeling, and I just wanted to leave. I felt so bad, but they were fine with it. Of course, they loved it. But I'm just curious what people think when they go in. And I love, love, love that you do that. I love that you're so involved. You're amazing. I just love you.
Thank you.
Of course, please keep in touch. I do not want to take up too much of your time. I would love to have you back on my channel anytime you want, anything you want to talk about, and keep me posted on all that stuff, and I will share it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Okay, bye.
You guys keep staying strong, keep loving strong, keep supporting one another through this journey, because you're one day closer to this all being over. And Lord knows I am too. Lots of love from my heart to yours, from Jenna's heart to all of yours. I'll see you beautiful